It's no secret that Stardew Valley is one of the best indie games ever made, but somehow I managed to dodge it for the last 5 years even though I love these types of games. And that should honestly be a crime because this game is amazing, so I finally decided to try out this game and I thought it would be fun to document my first 100 days ever spent in the game. And yes, I know there's dozens of these videos already on YouTube, but this one is going to be a unique take on the genre because I really did have absolutely zero knowledge of what I was getting into before starting. And I'm hoping this video will act as sort of a time machine for the people that have been playing for years and are just looking for a nostalgia trip to remind themselves of what it was like when they first started. Alright, you get the premise. No more boring intro. Let's get right into it, shall we? We name our farm that. For this playthrough, I just scrolled through the farms and picked the one that I thought looked the coolest, and I ended up on the wilderness farm, and that was probably the worst choice for a first timer because I was terrified of staying out at night. And I'm not proud of this, but it took me until like fall to realize that the monsters are more of an annoyance than a threat, so that just left like 7 hours at the end of the day that I just wasn't willing to use. So place your bets now. How long do you think I can go on the first day without passing out? If you guessed before 11 o'clock in the morning, you'd be right. It was bound to happen. I mean, you gotta learn somehow. Day 2, I learned the foraging mechanic before heading into town for the first time, where I stumbled upon a calendar with a bunch of the townspeople's birthdays in it, and then immediately proceeded to block it out of my memory because I had no clue that you could interact with the villagers and get things from them, so I never used it. After exploring the town a little bit, I went down and found a beach and a man who gave me a fishing rod. And I caught one fish before I realized that I had absolutely zero energy and I didn't want to repeat a day 1, so I went searching for something that would replenish the energy, and I found a shop next door to the calendar, so I went in and bought, yeah, I don't know, don't ask. That was the first of many ways that I wasted money in this run, but it kinda did have a silver lining though because it let me have the exact amount of energy I needed to plant the seeds that were rotting in my inventory, so I guess it wasn't a total loss. Until I woke up in the morning and figured out that if you pass out, you don't wake up with full energy, so that kinda sucked. That's okay though, I spent the morning of day 3 trying to fully understand the fishing mechanics, and then I discovered the journal and decided that meeting everyone in the town was of higher importance than literally anything else I could have been doing, so that's what I did for the rest of the day. Day 4, I met Gunther and Clint and opened my first geodes, and after that I spent the rest of the day and all of day 5 fishing because it was the best way I had found so far to earn some money, and at the end of the day I got all the way to level 2 fishing. On the morning of day 6, I harvested my parsnips before going into town and getting the community center cutscene. I had no idea what this building was, but don't worry, it doesn't take me too long to discover the significance of it. Day 7, I got the fiberglass rod and I was so excited about it that I spent the entirety of the next 5 days fishing my heart out on Willie's dock. In the process of editing this, I realized that I spent way too much time fishing in the early game. But to me, that's the best part about this game. There's really no right or wrong way to play it. So if some days seem glossed over, it's because I really only did one thing for the entire day, and who wants to watch that? But yeah, on the final day of the fishing frenzy, I finally had enough money to buy the first packback upgrade, and then for the rest of the day, I put it to good use by filling it up with seaweed. Yo, when is this dude gonna find the mines? Day 12, I farmed enough wood to build the bridge to this little sand island where there's actually a bunch of cool forageables and worms that I thought were decoration. The rest of the day was spent doing random household chores, and I turned in a little bit early because I was really excited to see what this egg festival thing was. In the morning, I bided my time until I could finally enter the festival, and the first thing I did was check out Pierre's pop-up shop, and I finally made a good investment.
Wow.
How does that saying go? Even a blind squirrel finds a nut? But it's really sad because the only reason that I bought strawberries in the first place is because they're my favorite fruit. After that, I went around and talked to all the townsfolk, except for the one person that I actually needed to talk to start the egg hunt, so after a while I figured that was it and I just ended the festival. I know, you all wanted to see me get destroyed by Abigail, I'm sorry. Day 14, I checked out the community center, and all I found was a letter on the ground and this little rat-looking thing, so after an embarrassingly long amount of time trying to kill that Junimo, I left feeling defeated. After that, I went south to forage for the rest of the day, and I ran into these kids talking about how to open the sewers. Day 15, I got a mysterious letter in the mail, and because of my foraging adventure yesterday, I knew exactly where the stone tower was, so I headed straight there, where me and this old man shared a very pleasant acid trip. Oh, and I guess I was able to read the stuff in the community center after, but who cares about that? But yeah, after coming down from the trip, I visited Clint, and I gotta stop buying stupid things. I'm never gonna get anything done. But there's a bright side at least, because I finally decided to explore the rest of the map, and I eventually stumbled into what I'm sure you've all been waiting for, the mines. Yeah, it only took until day 15. And the next day, I figured that if I was able to completely miss one of the most important things in the game, like the mines, then it's probably be worth it to explore everything the map had to offer, so that's what I did. I found a broken minecart and a tunnel with a prompt to insert a battery pack, which to be honest, I still have no idea what that's for even while editing this. And after that, I spent the rest of the day in the mines where I got to floor 14. The next morning, I went and checked out the community center bundles, and to be honest, I got a little bit discouraged because I was in the process of developing goals that I wanted to achieve for these 100 days, and I knew at the pace that I was going, I didn't have a snowball's chance of finishing this place before hitting the 100-day mark. I got a lot further than I thought I would by the end, but don't expect me to finish this place. The rest of the day was spent dreaming about the chicken coop that I couldn't afford and foraging around for salmon berries. Days 18 and 19 were spent doing things that didn't require a lot of brain power, and I used that time to really decide the goals that I wanted to achieve before the end of the 100 days, and they did evolve more over time, but I needed some direction at this point, and this is what I came up with. I wanted to get to the bottom of the mines, which at the time I expected to be 100. I wanted to have a fully automated farm. I wanted to open the sewers, at least dabble into getting some barns and coops so my farm would feel less lonely. I wanted a steady source of income, and I finally wanted to finish at least 2 community center rooms. After developing these goals, I decided that it was best to work on one thing at a time, so I spent the entirety of day 20 in the mines. And I'm gonna get flamed for this, but I didn't know the elevator was a thing, so I just started from the beginning. Day 21 was a really good day. I finished my first community center bundle, and I got my copper axe. After that, I donated a bunch of things to Gunther because I knew that was how you opened up the sewers. I figured you had to donate about 20 things, 30 at the most. 60 priceless artifacts for 1 rusty key. Gunther, go f*** yourself. Today was also my first time visiting the Adventurers Guild, and I bought an iron dirk. My pea-brain just saw more damage, and I figured it would be way better than my sword, so on day 22, I went to test it out, and this thing sucks. Seriously, how are you supposed to hit anything with those daggers? As I'm sure you could guess, I immediately traded it out for a wooden sword. Day 23, I forged enough materials to be able to finish the construction bundle, and that opened up the boiler room, so I wanted to check it out, and it actually seemed doable. Day 24 was the flower dance, and I had no clue you could date people in this game at this time, so Clint and I spooned in the corner while we watched everybody else have fun. The next 3 days were all spent in the mines, and I had finally figured out that the elevator was a thing, so I made it all the way to level 50. It was pretty late when I exited the mines on the last day, and I found Linus rummaging through some trash, and he made me feel absolutely horrible about myself for telling him to get a job. But immediately after his old sob story, he said he would quit rummaging through the trash, but as soon as I was out of sight, he went to a different trash can and just started up again. What the fuck, Linus? Day 28, I finally had enough materials to make some sprinklers, and I cannot put into words how excited I was for that, but it literally went up in smoke. You'll hear more about that later. Day 29 was the first of summer, and to commemorate that occasion, I did my absolute best to finish the boiler room. And I actually got very close, but there's just one piece that I had no clue how to get, and that was the fire quartz. I was pretty sure that you got it from the mines, but I had no idea how deep you had to go before it started spawning. Day 30 sure was an interesting day. It was spent planting some melons next to my shiny new sprinklers, but I decided halfway through that I'd rather not have to replant every time I harvest, so I bought some blueberries and started replacing them. Don't ask me why I didn't just keep both, but what's done is done. And did you know that you could pickaxe crops to dig them up? Because I sure didn't. I tried everything I could think of to get rid of them, and once again, I didn't do the one thing that actually works. My last resort was to use my 1 cherry bomb to try and blow up as many as I can, but the only problem was I didn't know the radius of the explosion, so I'm sure you know where this is going. Yeah, that stung a little bit. I tried to do some damage control, but I was so frustrated at the time that I decided to just go to bed and hope tomorrow would be a better day. The next morning I went and picked up my copper pickaxe, and I used it for the rest of the day in the mines trying to recoup the materials from the sprinkler massacre. And I succeeded, but I decided that it wasn't enough, so I went back into the mines for the rest of the day and all of the next 2 days to farm for more sprinklers, where I had my first death, so that's kinda cool. You guys are probably cringing so hard that I'm spending all this time on the worst sprinklers in the game, but at the time I didn't even know that there were better ones, so deal with it. And at the end I ended up with 9 sprinklers. That seems really bad, but yeah, that's what I had. On day 35, I was in a desperate need for a new weapon, and I found a pretty powerful one at the Adventurers Guild, but there was one problem. It was way too expensive. I don't know if I've ever had $4,000 before. So it was time to hit the beach and grind some money. I ran into this shady dude with a cowboy hat on who says I'm not good enough to buy his amulet. Whatever, I didn't want it anyway. I want it so bad. Foraging and fishing was still the best way I had found to find money at this time, so that's what I did for all of the rest of the day and the next 2 days, and I actually managed to make most of the money, but I'm terrible with finances and I just couldn't resist the allure of the crab pot. Yeah, that probably takes the cake for the worst purchase I'll make in this video, but who knows. Day 38, Demetrius gave me the option of turning my farm into either a bat or a mushroom cave, and as cool as having a bat cave would sound, I had had enough of them in the mines, so I just chose the mushrooms. After Demetrius left, I was really excited to go check out my crab pot, so I headed down to the beach where I realized that, yeah, you gotta put bait in it. Since I was down there, I decided to just fish for money that day, and I actually got enough to buy the sword. Oh man, that's so much better. Day 39, I'm not gonna waste your time. It was just mining, and I got to level 70. And on the next day, I think the game started to feel bad for me because when I was doing my usual geode smashing for the day, I got my final piece of the puzzle for the boiler room. I took my victory stroll through the town and inserted the fire quartz. Yo, why the Junimos gotta jump scare me like that? Day 41, I was so excited to check out the minecarts and they did not disappoint at all. It was the feeling of progress that I was lacking and desperately needed. I was feeling rejuvenated at this point. What's better than a useless crab pot? That's right, 3 useless crab pots. I don't know what I was thinking at this point, guys. Your guess is as good as mine. Day 42, I decided that my farm was ugly, so I spent the entirety of the day cleaning it out because I couldn't think of anything else to do. And because it was only day 43 and I was already stumped on things to do, I realized that I wouldn't really get much done in this video if I didn't at least have some kind of a clue of what this game had to offer, so I gave myself a time limit of 30 minutes to research this game, and during this time, I figured out a lot of cool things, such as there's upgraded sprinklers at level 6 farming, cranberries are pretty overpowered, there's a whole separate set of mines called the Skull Mines, there's a place called Ginger Island that I had absolutely no hope of reaching in this 100 days, and you can get a horse! Seriously, out of all those things, why did that blow my mind the most? I used this information to update my goals and tacked getting a horse onto the end, of course. The entirety of days 43 through 50 were spent trying to increase my farming level to 6 where I could actually get the sprinklers, and also farming gold, iron, and quartz in the mines to actually be able to craft them. I was so burnt out from mining at this point that I spent all of days 51, 52, and 53 clearing out the rest of my farm to clear my head and recharge for more mining. Day 54, I still wasn't quite ready to go back into the mines, and I had already cleared out all of the farm at this point, so I decided to just try to make it look a little bit nicer. And I only had access to 2 paths at this point, and I didn't like either of them, so I just went with the lesser of 2 evils, and I guess it's a step up. Oh, and I also spent some of the day mapping out where I was going to put the sprinklers. Days 55 and 56 were spent in the mines because I wanted to get as many sprinklers as I could before fall rolled around. Turns out that was kind of a moot point though, because I failed to get level 6 farming, so I had to resign myself to about a week of watering before I can finally get the sprinklers. I know, I'm talking about these sprinklers a lot, but I was excited, leave me alone. Day 57 was the start of fall, and this season was by far the most productive one. I spent most of the gold I had saved on cranberries and immediately went to plant them along with a little wheat to try to hit level 6 farming. And I'm ashamed to say this, but I got a little bit impatient and I just went to bed. That happens not a lot, but it does happen every now and then. The next day I realized that I didn't have enough storage space, so I spent the entire day reorganizing and decluttering. And the next morning I woke up to the request board cutscene. That mechanic is gonna get used so much, yeah, like you wouldn't believe. Unless you believed that I never touched it, because I sure didn't. The rest of the day and the next 2 days were spent doing pretty much nothing because I couldn't get the sprinklers out of my head and it was hard to concentrate on anything else. And on day 61, I realized that I hit level 6 farming, and I really just wanted to go to bed after that, but I forced myself to at least set up the farm for the sprinklers because I knew if I didn't do it, I would just have to do it the next day. But it was finally time, and I ended up with 36 of those glorious bastards, and I couldn't be happier. Until I realized that I still had to water one last time. After that, though, I just went to bed, to be honest. I really just wanted to see my hard work come to fruition. I know, looking back, I wasted so much time, but in the moment, I sure didn't regret it at all. After admiring my farm for a little bit on day 63, I figured out that you can bomb the rock blocking the path to the dwarf, but I couldn't understand him yet, so I figured I just needed a few more of those dwarf scrolls that I had been finding. And after wasting so many days waiting on those sprinklers, I decided I would try to make it up by trying new things, and I figured I would fiddle around with the crafting menu a little bit, and I found out that you can make tappers where you can tap trees for things, and you can also make snacks with the nuts I had saved up. Day 64 was my first cranberry harvest, and damn, I think our money problem's over now. Not really, but it's nice to finally not be totally broke for about 9 seconds before investing most of it back into more cranberries. And after planting them, the rest of the day was spent in the mines. Day 65, I decided it was finally time to experiment with animals because I finally had the funds for it, and I couldn't find a place to put the coop where I wanted because of the stupid fence I placed for some reason, but I wasn't about to run all the way back, so I just plopped it down somewhere. Mr. Cowboy Man, what do I have to do? I want it. I need it. Day 66, I reached floor 100 in the mines where I got my very first star drop. Nuts. The next day I was tired of looking at this stupid dwarf and I really wanted to know what he did, so I broke and looked it up, and turns out I was only missing one of the 4 scrolls. The only problem is that specific scroll is a giant headache to get. You have to hoe dirt past floor 80 in the mines, but I stopped reading after the website said hoe dirt in the mines, so I spent most of the first day on a floor that doesn't even spawn it.
Nice.
And this continued for 5 days. I don't know if I just had terrible luck, but good lord. During those 5 days, I had a cranberry harvest, which I invested into more cranberries for the last time. All the harvests after this are profit, I promise. And I also decided to upgrade my pickaxe because even though I was in the mines, I wasn't using it at all, so I figured it was a good time. But yeah, as I'm sure you can figure out, I got it well into the night on the 5th day. And that leads us to day 72, where I realized that I had absolutely no idea what a grange display was. I mean, I can't be the only one, right? Because I had no idea what I was getting myself into, I just grabbed 9 of my most shiny things and shoved them into the box, and that's when I realized, hey, the other 3 have mainly food items. I tried my best to bribe Mayor Lewis with all those shiny things, but he wasn't swayed even a little bit. I got last place, and just to rub salt in the wound, he told me to take back my shiny things. He didn't even want them. And after repeatedly losing on the 50-50 wheel, I decided to just call it a day because I was pretty demoralized. Who knew this game could be so brutal? Day 73, I was finally able to check out the dwarf, and 5 days well spent. There's nothing good there besides a rare crow. It's okay though, because day 74, I got my very first all-profit cranberry harvest, and I decided to spend most of it in the community center where I got my first lightning rod. Only one problem, it never decided to thunderstorm again after this, so I never got to use it. Day 75 was spent entirely in the mines, where I finally got to the final floor and got the skull key. And the next day I had another fat cranberry harvest, and I discovered that you could break this log that lets you into the secret woods. After that, I spent my time foraging, and I managed to finish my second room in the community center. Day 77 was spent hardwood farming and checking out the desert for the first time. After getting my fill of the desert, I decided to try my hand at the skull mines, and I didn't think I would get very far, but that's just pathetic. All that taught me was that I was so not ready to challenge this place yet. Day 78 was kind of a blank. All I did was farm more hardwood and plan out the tiny little bit of stuff I could complete in the community center left before the end of the 100 days. Day 79, I was super excited because I finally had all the materials and the funds to get my stable, so I strolled over to Robin's, and of course she wasn't there. I fished for the rest of the day out of spite. Day 80, Robin decided to stop slacking off and actually do her job today, so I got my stable. The next day I had my final cranberry harvest, and does she get paid for hours on or something? Why does she work so slow? She just bangs on wood all day. How are you going to get anything done? With the extra money I had from all my cranberry harvests, I decided to splurge on the final backpack upgrade. And to be honest, that's the last notable thing that I did until day 100. I just didn't know enough about the game to be able to find things to do that I knew I would be able to finish before the end. If I tried to start any of the remaining things that I knew how to do, I would just leave a bunch of projects unfinished, and I didn't want to do that. So instead of making you watch menial tasks for 20 days, I decided to just dive fully into my only goal that I had left, which was to get as far as I can in the school mines. And preparing for that is basically just consisted of mining stone and gathering the materials for bombs, so since that would be really boring, I decided to just skip to day 100 when I actually did the run in the mines. So after hours and hours of pulling my hair out mining stone, the day finally came. I had it in my head that I was going to get absolutely boned on the 100th day and get the worst luck, but no, Concerned Ape was looking down on me, I guess, because I managed to pull the best possible luck. Everything was adding up and I was as prepared as I could possibly be, so I waited at the bus stop until 10 for good old Pam to drive us to the desert one last time. I pulled up at 10:20 and immediately got to work. I tried using the bombs scarcely, but I was still pretty terrified because of my last experience, so I ran out pretty quick. I was making good progress though, reaching floor 50, 60, and even 70. I tried not to look at the time too much because I knew it would psych me out, but once those Z's popped up over my head, I knew my dream of reaching level 100 was absolutely crushed. That didn't stop me though. I was determined to get as low as possible, so I forged on. It was looking like floor 79 was my limit, but in the last 10 minutes of the day, I banked not just a staircase, but also a downshaft. And with that, floor 86 was my final resting place. I still have no idea if that's a good run or not, but it seemed pretty good, I guess. I don't know, you guys probably get to like floor 300 or something. But yeah, with that, we've reached the end of the 100 days. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video, and if you watched it all the way through, that means so much to me. And that also means that you probably enjoyed it at least a little bit, so I hope you consider subscribing for more content like this in the future. I have no idea when I'm going to make another video like this because spending 50 plus hours on one video is just unrealistic. I do have plans for more Stardew content like this, but in the meantime I'm going to be streaming a perfection series over on Twitch. If you want to catch it live, the best way to do that is to follow both my Twitch and my Twitter at SipGid, but if you don't want to or can't, don't worry, I'm going to be posting it to YouTube in sort of a Let's Play style format. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.